Thanks a million. So yeah, my name is Helge Schenk. I'm freelance technical director and doing this for Panasonic, working with this product, Kairos. I'll give you a brief introduction over PowerPoint. And we'll skip most of the images in this PowerPoint anyway, because we go through the entire rundown on the GUI, and I will walk you through all of that. Kairos, it's an IT platform, which is based on an off-the-shelf IT server. The video processing is all be done using a GPU, and CPU, of course, also has been used for transporting all the data. A standard chassis, which is in this case, it's customized to chop off the front end to make it more rack friendly. It's only 60 centimeters deep, roughly. And from here on, we're now not talking anymore over FPGA processing. It's all GPU, CPU based. The video processing is entirely uncompressed. We have pretty much unlimited video layers where we can composite into the machine, and we mix and match every of our inputs. If it's NDI, SMPTE, 2110, HDMI, 12G, single stream, quad link, SDI, every format can be run into the system and also spit out of the system. It's full customizable, and one of the big points is that we are only causing a 1 frame delay from input to output, as we not, let's say, put any more additional processing to it, or if we have to put in a frame synchronizer or something like this. So from input to output, it's truly only 1 frame. So we shot this image over here, where we see that's the original screen over here, and that is going from through the system and the output, and took a picture photo just to prove that 1 frame of latency. Kairos consists of, when it's a full running system, it consists of the chassis, the frame, the core, the GUI software, which we can run on a Windows PC or even on a Mac, and the physical control panel. Actually, the control panel is not an off-the-shelf component. It's a proprietary control panel, which is built by Panasonic. Can be used, or you can use the virtualization form of it. That's totally up to the customer side. Typically, when we're talking about the comparison between the conventional FPGA-based switcher and a software-defined switcher running on a GPU, when we determine that we have a 1 frame delay from input to output, so let's say in a beautiful world, so every source is in sync, we're not putting any DVE channels into it, even though the GPU-based system will always mimic to be, let's say, like an ME workflow to mimic what a TD knows already from other switches. However, the ME, typically we cannot predict at any point in time saying, oh, how much delay do we have in here? If it's a frame synchronizable, if it's a DVE in the ME, now we route the DVE, this one ME with the DVE contained in, we route into the next ME with another DVE channel, and so on. So we start cascading the delay for the system. On a GPU-based system, even though you put something like we put a ME into an ME into an ME into an ME, so what we call a scene, when we route scenes into scenes, a GPU will always process everything in parallel, so you not start cascading delays. So if it's that one DVE, so you could put a DVE into the DVE into the DVE into the DVE, you would maintain there's only 1 frame additional into the video signal path. Kairos is laid out more like compared to Photoshop style compositing. So you should simply drag your attributes, so to speak, into the video path, and just keep building blocks and adding components as you wish on the way. Now, typical the way we're building stuff is when we start determining what is our canvas size. Typically on a video switcher, on an ME-based switcher, we adjust the format of the system, let's say 1080i or 1080p or 720 or whatsoever, or even 4K. But from here on, we determine also a certain resolution of the system. On Kairos, this is completely independent. So you determine as a video switcher, as a TD, this is the canvas resolution, what I'm building in, and that's my new layout. So this chart over here, when we see the right-hand side, when we're building something like a 32:9, you would build 2 MEs and stitch them together and make them look like a seamless 32:9 composition. In Kairos, we will see this later on. You simply tell the system, this is my X resolution, this is my Y resolution, and we'll take it from there. So it's not rocket science in this case anymore, and you don't be a mathematic genius in order to make all the math from running one DV from one ME to the next and so on. So with all these offsets and coupling and object offsets and whatnot, this is here all obsolete. So when we're building things in here in Kairos, it's resolution independent on the input side, on the processing side, as well as on the output side. And we can have multiple things inside the multiviewer. We see this more in detail when going through the GUI stuff. That's typically what we would do when we're spitting out a 32:9 scene. You see in the upper right corner when I'm feeding two projectors, even though having an overlapping area, so it's not being 3840 anymore. So it's something like -100 pixels or so. We can adjust all of this and make the overlap. We could even do the edge blending within Kairos. Typically, when we're having this kind of a show, like two projectors, and we have portrait formats and whatnot, and then we have to position all the videos within the canvas size. Multiple different hardware components are used nowadays to do that. For now in Kairos, we can handle this all in one system because we can determine the input side resolution, the output, and as well as the processing side. And even though changing from portrait to the landscape mode and whatnot, all of this can be done within Kairos. The control panel, Kairos, what you see over here is 24 buttons in a row, 8 rows, 2 T-bars, a joystick, 2 numeric keypads, USB connection. These are all colored LED buttons, all customizable within this machine. Kairos also provides an open API, REST API. So for engineering purposes, saying we want to build, someone wants to build his own interface or whatnot. So here we can use a browser to have some generic controls, as you see, aux delegations and inputs and macros, multi-view layouts and controlling scenes. But the API is a full documented control point where even engineers can get the entire documentation in order to interface to their needs. Simultaneous production with hard and soft panels. So that's typically when we use more than one control panel, more than one GUI, even though we have Densitron control panels available or soft panels from the GUI, all can be done and connected over the network. Internal resources of Kairos is also 8 channels of RAM recording, so it's 24 GB of RAM memory with embedded alpha, so you don't have to sacrifice a secondary channel in order to run the fill in the key side. Even more, we're going to see this later on. But just doing a kind of a replay wipe and effects wipe, I don't even have to use a channel for this. I can use a wizard, which is then taking the loaded clips and use the clips like a source. So as you can see, there's a small little green arrow mark here, which tells me that these clips are loaded into RAM. So these clips can be used without going through a RAM channel. So I would use a RAM channel only for that purpose when I need to tape motion commands or to mark in, mark out a clip to have several regions of that of this entire timecode piece of video. So again, if I just need to run a background loop on one of the walls, I just use a clip as it is as a regular source. Stills within the GPU. So actually the RAM recorder is CPU-based memory. The stills are in the GPU memory. It's also supporting the alpha channel. On top of this, we have 2 channels of media player, which is typically using a compressed video format. Could be ABC Entra, could be H.264, H.265, MPEG-4 stream, so to speak, which will be live deflated when using this source. We see that later on also in the video menus. And of course, we have the scene reentry, so what would be the equivalent to an ME reentry, and we have so-called effects inputs where we can pre-process videos, let's say for branding cross points, or put a lower third in, or put an over-the-shoulder box into it, or make a color correction to it and whatnot. All of this, those effects input can be used for. 2 multiviewers are within the package. So with every chassis, you get 2 of those multiviewer heads. Maximum load is 36 pictures per multiviewer. We see later on all the bits and pieces what we can add into the multiviewer. Typically, when we running with Kairos, we need to determine what is our infrastructure within the truck or within the control room or on the flight pack. So we can run this entirely on IP. So if all my sources are IP ready, I can use those streams straight through the switch, and then I will talk to the switch using this 100 gigabit backbone connection with the QSFP link to make my entire video IOs working. We can also use SFP embryo, like for instance embryonics, which is real nowadays, and use those bits and pieces in order to convert SDI streams or HDMIs in whatever stream into a network stream and take it from there. There's also a solution with the company called Deltacast to give us some gateway modules which we can connect to the internal PCI bridge. So there are 8 ports in here, and we can have 8 of those modules connected to it with SDI connectors, HDMI connectors, DisplayPort connectors, and whatnot, and use it without having any IP infrastructure whatsoever. But of course, we can also use those breakout modules over here and take this into the machine. And of course, we can have a complete combination of all of this. So we can use the 100 gigabit link plus the Deltacast links to have a mixed environment like to fit in every of those installations, like a hybrid kind of installation to start with. That's pretty much it for the PowerPoint. So I would like now to go and share my GUI screen over here. So I hope you're seeing all of that. So we'll switch off the video for a moment. Take this out. Kairos, that's the so-called like a kind of a virtual control panel, whereby this is not the true virtual control panel. Let me share this also because we have a full simulation of this as well. And we go into details later on a little bit on this as well. So this is typically, there's a copy, 1-by-1 copy of how the physical control panel looks like. And it also functions exactly like the physical control panel. Let's go back to the GUI again over here. In the GUI, that is my main screen when Kairos is started, when Kairos is launched. So that's typically my 2ME something screen of a control panel. Very important though is the menu architecture. So we are only one level deep in terms of architecture. So right now I'm in the mixer tab, and in the mixer tab I can access the control, this kind of virtual control panel, my scenes menu, my transition menu, my audio mixer menu, and the painter. So it is kind of a graphics tool within Kairos. I'm not saying it's a character generator, but it's close to it. So now from here on, just clicking on the mixer tab, now you see these are all the available tabs within Kairos. So it's multiviewer, macros, sources, configurations, and setup. So from one menu, I can go with one mouse click to the next menu over here, saying I want to go into my input menu over here. So I'm in the input menu. So I can click again over here and pick my control menu. Now with the keyboard combination saying control key and the tab key, I can also cycle through a menu history and see what are my last menus, what I've used within the machine. Like this here, for instance, saying I want to go to the audio mixer, and I'm going straight to the audio mixer from here on. Okay, now I'm saying I want to introduce some bits and pieces from my sources of color mats. I have my color mats menu, and even though when I'm clicking on the menu list, you see those light gray buttons over here. These were the last menus I've touched from that tab. That's the indication that that was the last menu from here, and color mats was the last one from sources. That's why it's light gray. I can have just a full screen of mats over and over the place. I can also organize this and build new directories to organize my work within the directory. Same is true on the clip player. So you're seeing, I can click on those folders. I can have this plain canvas view, or I can also have a view into a directory tree. Now from here on, I simply click on those elements, and it's just refreshing the thumbnails for me. Get this all up. So now they are cached. So when I'm clicking back, they're straight away. So I don't have to wait any longer for this. Various music clips over here. So I have clip players in the list here as well, saying for this one, for example, let me load this and play it. And on the left-hand side, I have another clip stack I can play with. So the organization for this is like tape motion commands, and these are all, in this case, are MPEG-4 streams, which are live deflated. I'm playing it back from the internal system drive, which is a terabyte SSD. In lower right corner, you see also that is the usage of my disk within the machine, and I have 2 channels of those clip players for playbacks. Now, using the shuttle thing over here, and you can see at the far end, so when I'm going under under 10 seconds, the time counter will turn to yellow. When I'm 5 seconds countdown, the thing turns to red just to indicate we're ready to see the end of that clip. Okay, now we're going to the RAM recorder. So it's the same type of an organization. You can also flip this into a tree view, unfold this here, seeing the different various clips in their locations. And again, you see that green arrow marker, which is telling you that this clip is loaded into RAM. Doesn't mean that I have to use it in the RAM channel. And I will point this out later on again, taking one of those clips which is not loaded into RAM and used as a regular source within Kairos, anywhere, on an output, on an input bus, on a layer bus, somewhere. Same is true here. We have also playlists for every of those 8 channels. So we can use those playlist functionality as well. On my stills, same again, view switching into a directory tree. And from here on, I can browse all my various elements over here and read this out and present this and see what it is. Again, also the stills are supporting alpha channel, so I don't have to use 2 stills for fill and key in order to combine those to make this work. On the effects inputs over here, this is where I can create my own, let's say, artificial kind of upstream elements, saying I want to make a color correction on input, I want to pre-process this and create a lower third, or I want to put an over-the-shoulder box into it and whatnot. So as soon as I'm clicking on one of those elements over here or create a new one, I get a full list of effects I can apply to such an input, like lookup table controls, like RGB correction, YOE, corner panning, transforms, crops, chroma keying, luminance keying, and if this is not enough, I have some more things to add, embossed effects and whatnot, virtual PD sets and leaf color and whatnot. All of those effects can be used to create an effects input. Let's have a look at the multiviewer over here. So you see my multiviewer 1 with having this layout, and multiviewer can also determine that from this, in this case, this is a scene called Kairos, that I want to see the audio, but actually not see, actually want to hear the audio from this signal. So I can also point and say, I will have always this clip layer to be transported over HDMI into the multiviewer head. So I can extract this from my multiviewer here. So I can use the internal speaker, or let's say just use the audio output and drive some whatever active speakers to it. Multiviewer 1, Multiviewer 2. For you guys, it's not so easy to see what's going on here. I'm saying what is all on these inputs, but therefore we have this so-called live view. And in the live view of my elements over here, right now this is deactivated. Let me double check this here. Going with that on screen. Where are you? Come on. Coming over here. Start this here. Sorry a sec. Control panel, we saw this, and also can zoom in here into that screen. Back to the layout. In my layout over here, we saw that there are elements like the analog clock, digital clock, labels, digital countdown item, also the GPU metering. So we see in every screen, in every GUI screen in the upper right corner. So that is actually the usage of my GPU at this moment. And I can represent this also to be part of my multiviewer, that I can also see it right in front of my face. And there's a record button in the upper right corner, which is the record for my global macros. Global macros, scene macros, panel macros, and all of this is a lot. So now switching into the live view again. So now you see that is actually, this is the layout of my multiviewer 1. That's how it looks like. And that is the live view to it. So I'm streaming actually also the data into it. So when I'm going to a cross point, which contains also audio, so you hear the audio already in the background. And then you see it also visualized in the peak meters within the multiviewer. I turn this audio back off again. And another one, multiviewer number 2. Now you see the elements also. So I have an analog clock into the system. I have digital clocks into the system, different time zones also available. A countdown clock, which can be treated with start, stop, pause, set any other time to count down from, totally up to you. Using this GUI over here, which is a secondary computer, secondary GUI, and use this as an NDI source within Kairos. Sorry. And now at least, even though if I don't have monitors available or the monitor wall is not built, I can check if my system has the video on the right locations and whatnot. I'm seeing this all from here with a live video on it. Okay, now come back to my scenes here and have a brief look in what we can do when we dealing with the stuff over here. Actually, you see there are some names in here called also main, ME1, ME2, ME3. However, at the end of the day, this is just a freaking name, not more. So I could also call this Paul, Peter, Test, Hope, or not. I call it Hope, just to get you the idea. If I call this thing ME3 or Hope, it doesn't really make any difference. For us internally, this, what we consider is a scene. So scene, first of all, the difference here between the scene and an ME actually is when I want to insert a new scene, build a new one, use the drop-down menu here. I want to build a new scene. So the system's asked me what would be the name for this thing. Let's leave it in new scene, and offers the selection. Is it background only? Is it up to 6 layers on top of it? However, I keep it in background +4 and use that new scene. You're going to see, okay, there's a background in 4 layers. They're all on black. However, if I tell the system I need more layers, so I simply tell the system I need another layer, offers me with layer number 5, wonderful. And another one, new layer. I can also use the keyboard shortcut Control L. So I now do this on the keyboard, Control L, 7. Okay, I can even mark one of these things up and say, okay, I copy this and paste it. So use the context menu, so I can use a copy and paste the copy. Do this from the keyboard quickly, Control C and V, and V and V and V and V. So here you see already that's the difference between an ME and a scene. An ME is always using so-called hardware boundaries. So that's what the FPGA can do for the system. And here I can always keep adding or subtracting things from a scene. On top of this, what is the difference between what we call a layer and a keyer? Now saying, okay, using this background element in here, and this background element should use a clip, a straight clip from my RAM recorder memory. So I'm going to my RAM memory and double check this out here. So okay, I'm using most of those clips. I will eject this guy here for a second. I will unload this clip so that you see it's not in use anymore and not on any other channel. Just in case, I will put this clip in here just to make sure it's now be used for another purpose. So what I can do in here at this moment, saying I want to go into my scenes again, scenes which is called main, again, could be any other name. And from now on, I can go straight into my sources, my source selection. I can do this from here. I can select the sources from the bus down here. I can use a right mouse click over here and select the source, opening that context menu, going to the clips, and now it's showing me a list of all the loaded clips within the memory. And I double click or click and press OK, and I have this running in my background. I will put this into my GUI over here, and here I will put the scene in called main, the one I'm working with at this moment. When I'm sharing this, you see that's actually just that clip now running as a source within my main scene over here. Coming back to my scenes menu, I leave this in, and for my layer number 1 right now, which is the layer control bus, and here's my source selection. And the most important part, and for every source identification, is the menu what we call source option. So the operator can tell the system for each and every bus, regardless if it's a cross-point bus for backgrounds, for layers, or for aux buses, which are the cross points which are relevant for me for this bus. So if it's only one character generator which is available in the show, why would I have all the cameras and all the VTRs and whatnot listed in here? So I can always tell the system out of that list, to be honest, I don't want to have this, I don't want to have that. And you see how I'm eliminating the elements from down here. I cancel this dialog and say the only thing what I actually want to have, regardless if it's part of that bus, if it's part of the source option or not, when I'm clicking on the manual selection, I can have access to all of my elements within here. So going to my internal cross points, and as you can see, also the multiviewer can be used as a cross point to feed it to the aux, to feed this to the multiviewer, and to duplicate multiviewer capabilities. aux buses can be part of my screen, all of this. So even aux buses can be monitored on Multiviewer. So what I want to use here is just the color bar at this moment, and let you see what we do. When I put this color bar thing on, I would see right away that this is default on green. And to do so, I will share my screen here again with my live view. And actually, let's do the other way around. Use this one over here. And we're going to use on my Multiviewer 2, we use the quad split thing here. And in the lower left, I will put in the scene main, and then we see the controls also. I'm doing this in my live view. Now you see that live view again over here, and I use my secondary screen now in order to control all of this. I'm going to my scenes menu, I'm picking my main, and then you see this is actually the screen when I'm turning on this color bars over here, this color bars. So I take it on as a full source. Now, just to let you see what item I'm controlling at this moment, let me go back to the scenes menu. So this is what I just did. I turned on this layer on and off, and you see there's a color identification. It's the color of this layer, That is the scene, or what you would consider probably the ME color to put on. And now we'll turn on this chroma key. That's the only thing what I want to do. I turn this chroma key on and off, and I'll let you see how that looks like in the live view over here. Turning this chroma key on and off. When I find my other mouse pointer, and turn the chroma key on, and then you see, okay, that's chroma key on green only, because it's a default, nothing special to it. However, if the task is now, let's say I do a character animation and I need to chroma key on 2 colors simultaneously, let's say like Panasonic flying in over green, I need to fly through the O, which is another color in. To do this on a generic ME switcher, there's not so many types and models out there where I can do this without a problem. Here, for me, it's as simple as saying, I add a new effect like an attribute on Photoshop, and I simply put in another chroma key. So we'll turn off this first chroma key for a moment, just to let you see live view, it's turned off. So now we'll turn off the second chroma key over here, and it's also on green default. And now by opening up this slider over here, and now we'll just simply move the U control in order to get another color spot over here. So I'll move this to the yellow area. I see already. Okay, cool. And now we'll turn on the other chroma key. Now I have green and yellow. Okay, so why not then saying I want to add another chroma key to this thing and put this onto blue, just so that you see how simple that is on a GPU-based system. So I drag this over to the blue area, and now I will just simply say I want to push this all into the upper left corner. So I enable a transform 2D. So I enable my controls over here as well. And now from here on, I can control this in the screen, saying I want to drag this and move this to the upper left corner. I know it's ugly, but you see, I'm doing this all in a single layer. So when people ask, so how you say it's all unlimited, but how many layers do we have? How many keys do we have? How many MEs do we have? It's also what we can do in a single layer. So this has all been done now in a single layer of Kairos. And this is how it looks like. So I have this color bar on, I have this transform on over here. I see the preview in that screen as well, and I have 3 chroma keys on to that machine. Okay, the next thing I want to introduce you as one brief little thing, how we deal with canvas sizes. In this canvas size over here, at this moment, I'm driving 9020 by 1080. So go into my advanced settings and enable those advanced settings. I can simply go and say, you know what, I want to drag this into another resolution, say 3840 by 1080 or any other resolution. And it's live processed within the machine, doing it this way. So I'll put this back to 1920. Also, you can put in numeric numbers on the keyboard or use the arrow markers in order to adjust this. I have in my layouts, I have a screen in here. Use that Multiviewer 1 over here and use a widescreen scenario. So I have on the left-hand side, I have all the factory presets. And on the right-hand side, I have my user presets. So I can save and recall and store and rename all these elements over here. And now we see that is a what's called widescreen, whatever it means. So let's have a look at the live view for this thing. So here is a widescreen element for that thing. I need to restart my clip player over here. Play this beast. So we see also in the screen something in here. So the way how this is represented within the GUI screen, I need to use this thing over here. So you see it also now in the lower right corner, how this is represented. Now, when I'm changing the canvas size now in here, and I will do it on another GUI again, that you see this is all being live processed within Kairos. So I'm now grabbing the slider for the scene resolution, and you see how this is all being live processed within the machine. So when I'm using that slider, machine is rendering this for me in real time. Now, considering that this is my left box, my center box, and my right box, I'm going to my scene menu again, and I'll have a look at the widescreen area over here. So see, is my left box, and I can create so-called layer groups. So for the people knowing about all the DVE programming, when we're saying local channel, global channel, something like this, so this would be more considerable like a global channel for items in here. So I build this pip, which is the video part of it, the frame, which is the video frame, and a text object to it. Coming back into my live view over here. Now, touching, if the director insists that the name text on the left box flexibility should be inside the screen, so I simply go and grab this item. So I use this other GUI again. When I find my mouse, so I use the text object over here. I'm using my transform controls, so enable transform controls. Now from here on, I simply drag this thing around and move it inside. And if now somebody tells me, oh, can you move the entire box? I simply use the entire box. I use my left box with the transform controls enabled to it and drag this all across the screen. Since my canvas is now 32:9 wide. And so for me, this is not something like stitching MEs together. This is just a new canvas size, and I can operate like on any other canvas with that machine as well. Now, coming to my layout again, and here I want to introduce this layer again. How we're dealing with clean feeds. Clean feeds and MEs, which are typically handled in the ME bank in the transition area, where we're saying, okay, it's my background and the key 1 and background and key 5 and background and 7, 3 and 2 and 4 and whatnot. However, even though when I need to maintain a so-called clean situation, and I'm switching through MEs and whatnot, where I'm also using character generators, and I have to maintain this clean scenario, I really have to pay attention about at which point in time in my show I'm switching to ME1, where probably the character generator is on. In Kairos, that's been handled like a checkbox for a layer. So if I tell the system this layer is invisible in my output 1 to 8, so the clean feed stacks or clean feed cascades I can determine, then it won't be rendered in this output, regardless what my ME main output does say in this speak, so to speak. Checking this again in my layout and use the live view for this. And let me take this. That's good. That's good enough. So that's my so-called my main scene. And here I determine that there's a different clean scenario on the aux bus. So I'm monitoring the aux bus 5, 6, and 7 within the multiviewer. And when we're looking at the scenes for Kairos, now this IP-IT platform is the lower third thing. And we're looking at the advanced controls over here. So I determined that this is not visible in the Cascade 3. Here I determined that this is not visible in Cascade 2. And for Panasonic, I determined that this is not visible in Cascade 1. Okay, now we'll check in the aux buses, and we go to aux 5 in this case, and you see the clean mask here can also accumulate multiple of those streams. So here saying, okay, put everything what is not visible in 2 and 3. Or here, not what is visible in 1 and 3, or in 1 and 2, whatever. So I can clear this all out, saying clear this bit mask and make this 2 only, for instance. Now, I'm clearing now all of my mask, and will operate this from a secondary screen. But let you see the live stream on the video. You get the idea. Clear this out. Okay. Now, sharing the layout, and now you see all the elements are visible in here. So see the Panasonic, the Kairos, and the platform. So Panasonic was the bit mask number 1. So I'm going to my next GUI over here and check my aux5 and determine my bit mask, which should be bit 1. And now you see Panasonic disappeared. Okay, now on the next output, on output number 6, I say, okay, this is bit mask number 2. And then the Kairos in the center disappeared. And again, on aux number 7, bit mask number 3. And here you see that the lower third disappeared. However, though, now I'm going back to my aux5. Where's my mouse pointer over here? Say, here I want to see the bit mask of 1 and 2, means Panasonic and Kairos. So now I accumulate this within the output. Now come into my aux5 and add bit number 2 to it. And you see now I'm adding this to it. And if it's only these 3 individual streams, now in order for me to make this clean look, so no graphics whatsoever, so simply enable also bit mask number 3. So now I have a clean output over here in this respect. One more thing I need to address also on the aux buses, what we can do here is typically on my right hand side over here on my advanced settings, output resolution. When I'm having a 32:9 wide screen, so like a half 4K, Kairos will now squeeze the signal into my output. But what I want to do now next, I want to go back to my layout and show you again this widescreen thing in here and see the live view. And in my lower left corner, where you see right now is the Kairos scene, I want to put in an aux bus over here, aux1. So I'm going to my layout on the secondary screen here, and I want to put in my aux bus number 1. Over here now is aux1. And aux1 should get the widescreen now. And then you see it in the lower left corner what's going to happen. So Kairos scenes widescreen. So now it will squeeze that into my layout in a regular 60:9. Come back to the aux buses again over here, and you see on my aux number 1, where's this widescreen now located? Going to my advanced settings, it tells us an auto fit. Just squeeze and aspectize it into the output, no matter what. So we'll uncheck this box over here. Going back to the live view, do this from the secondary screen, and I will uncheck this auto aspectizing, and then you see, oh, it takes only half the image over here. But now what you can do, you can determine which side or which proportion or which cutout I want to represent on this output. I can also apply softness to the edges. So even though if my projectors cannot do the edge blending, I can apply soft edges to my corners over here and do the soft edge from within Kairos and send this out to the projection. I can even go in and say I want to zoom into my controls over here. I want to zoom this in. I want to zoom this out. So I have full handles also for my output controls over here. I'll turn this back to all of it. And coming back to my layout, clip layout, and check this. Okay. For the moment, I think we've covered most of it. One thing I'd like to add is one small little item is I get rid of this color bar thing here, and I get rid of all my chroma keys in here, and I want to erase this. I want to erase that and turn this thing off. Now, imagine I want to do a simple, let's say, over-the-shoulder box, like what you see over here. But now director comes in and say, we need to dissolve in this box. So some switches nowadays can do a dissolve within the box straight in the layer. Here, what we do in one item would be the advanced settings and do the dissolve enable. Now with the dissolve enable, not can do only simply a mix dissolve. I can do any dissolve within Kairos. I can do a wipe, I can do a DV, I can use a replay wipe on all of these buses in here. The hardest point actually is the next time I'm pressing a cross point, that would go straight into the dissolve without, even though I have not having this on the multiviewer as a preview, I would just simply dissolve to the next cross point. Now, let me put my source options back into this thing here, and I want to add my clip layers, and I want to add my inputs. I can play with and let you see how that looks like. Now, going into my situation here, I want to go into the layout, and I show you in here the main scene over here, and go into my clip player, run this from scratch, and run this from scratch, and see that layout, and then you see that's the live view. That's the image what I'm just doing from main. However, though, saying this is my scene main with a over-the-shoulder box, and now of course I can go into my scene controls and saying, okay, for this layer I can enable the dissolve thing, and then I would just simply dissolve from one cross point to the next, regardless if it's on my multiviewer or not. It does dissolve over here. Just to let you double check this thing in here. So I'm going to another GUI to let you see that. Going to my scenes menu from main, and now when I'm selecting another cross point, you see there's the dissolve coming up in here. And just to make it a little more obvious, I will go to the scenes, I'll go to that layer, and I will do a wipe instead. So the mixed transition type is wipe, simple left, right, wipe, good enough. And now changing to the cross point, and you're going to see live view, and now you see that I'm doing a wipe to the next cross point. I hope you can see that. Should probably bring the duration rate a little up. Set this to, let's say, 200 at this moment. Okay. And coming back, and then I'm not sure what is the compression rate over the net, but now I think you can see that wipe running across the screen. However, I still cannot see what is the preview for this. Now, let's have a look, saying I want to have another situation in here, saying I disable this dissolve thing. But what I want to do next is I want to set my preset enable over here. And now you're going to watch in this bus row over here, enable my preset bus. Now all of a sudden, I can see this on my bus row over here, and I can determine, I can change the cross point. So when I'm doing clip 1, clip 2, clip 2, clip 1, you see how it's represented this in that area here as well. So even I'm switching to all of these cross points, doing this. So the next thing I would like to let you see is when we're going to the layout over here, and I'm changing this layout to a quad split again, and saying, okay, I delete this guy, I delete this guy, and here I simply want to have main, and here I want to have the main preview. Okay, enable the preview flag for this, and go into the transitions. Transition of main over here. Then you see there's an AB transition, there's a mixed transition, and in my control panel, let's say I want to delegate main into that area. So I simply go to my deck B, I can use deck A as well, doesn't matter, deck B, and I want to delegate main into that area. So now I see representation of this clip 1, clip 2 thing over here. I see my background main, and I see on my preset bus is black. Let's say I want to have another clip in here. Go into my background scene clips. I want to use this guy here. Okay, that's another clip in here. Now, just to let you see what's going on here. In transitions. In transitions, you see there's an AB background mix, and there are other mixes here. So I have two categories of mixes. These are so-called on-off mixes, and these are AB mixes. Now, this mix here will take my over-the-shoulder box just simply on and off. So instead, I want to say I want to do a mixed transition AB or wipe transition AB, and I want to run this over the lever arm. Let's say I'm using a star wipe over here, and have the star wipe, and I will change this one into be on-off mix just in case. So I have two transitions. One is the on-off, one is the AB. And this is how this will now change also my look-ahead preview within the screen. Now going to my layouts again, main and main preview over here, and check the live view for this. Now you see the different backgrounds, the split on the background, and I will put in another window where I'm having a new tile and move this around and change the size. And I want to put in here my other GUI, FX inputs, FX GUI. I'll put this in, and let you see this main thing over here. Okay, now we see that other box. Going to my live view. Okay, now this is the scene main, what we're looking at. This is the preview, the look ahead preview. This is my main output. And on my main output, saying in my transition area, looking at the control panel, and then you see down here, my next transition is set to background only over here. And now you see when I now would use the lever arm or I would use the cut or the auto button, then you see I'm doing just a transition in my background. But what if I'm using my next transition bit and put it to the next transition, which was the AB transition on the layer. And then you see how it's also infecting my look ahead transition preview. So this is on my clip layer 2. This is clip layer 1. This is the same background. So when I'm doing this type of a transition, it will only transition with a star wipe within this layer. That's the star wipe only over here. But even though I can say and build this the same way, saying I want to do a background and layer transition, which will also then affect my look ahead transition. So I'll run this auto transition here, cut out all the lever arm. So it's all incorporated also within my look ahead preview over here. Okay, I think that's pretty much it for now. I will stop this here, otherwise I think it's probably a little bit too much, and set back my elements over here. And I think we're ready for Q&A.